Hello, hello, and welcome to Decaf, a production of the Beacon, the Center of Tennessee. Taylor and Mark are here today, and Mark is in a great mood today. The reason I'm laughing as we start this, what were you just singing as I was
Oh,
counting down?
it's the stupidest song. It's I'm embarrassed to even talk about. There's this stupid song called "Good as Gold," and I'm watching this dumb Vanderpump Rules. It's some girl from Vanderpump Rules with the worst voice of all time, but like she somehow came up with the catchiest song I've ever heard, despite her horrible voice.
Okay, did you just start your Vanderpump Rules journey? Because I'm on episode 3, and I think I know what you're talking about.
No. You know who I'm talking about. It's
I know
Sheena,
who.
but it's like I don't think it's till season two. But it's way better than her other trash songs.
Okay, her voice is actually
Awful,
so bad.
awful.
I was watching it and she was like, "I want to be like Britney Spears," and I was like, "Girl, you're not.
Yep.
You're never even gonna be close. Like this is terrible."
You know what I'm talking about. And my sister said, and my sister was really upset because I'm like, it kind of is like when Paris Hilton did music, and my
Yeah.
sister's like, do not ever compare to my queen Paris Hilton. I'm like, okay, well, and apparently that's how bad her voice is. That Paris Hilton's voice is clearly better than hers.
And Paris Hilton's voice is like almost at the
Bad,
bottom. Like
bad.
she
It's
just
like
is
me.
worse than
Yeah,
that.
I know, but I mean, the song
Like
is like,
you.
and I would urge you to listen to this song, or maybe just wait till it comes on. But like, it's so catchy, and if somebody else sang it, I feel like it might have been like the biggest hit of all time. It's like, despite her voice, it was still good.
Can we just say that in the world there is someone for everyone? Because you found Kira, who loves trash television. Y'all have
Mm-hmm.
this equal love of just like pure trash television. And I think it's a beautiful thing. There is someone for everyone in the world.
It's not equal. She likes it way more than I do. Like I'm still not willing to watch like I don't want to watch The Housewives. I don't watch Summer House and whatever Winter House or
Okay.
those things. Like I have a standard. Any reality show that comes on, she will watch, and she will hate watch it. She'll be like, "This is horrible," but she will watch the entire thing.
I mean, you got me started watching The Hills New Beginnings. I started it the other night and I'm already on like, you told me about it like yesterday or 2 days ago. And I stayed up last night after my Bible study and I laid in my bed and I drank red wine and I tore through like 3 episodes. I am exhausted because I did not go to sleep because I could not stop watching this horrible, horrible show.
And the only reason I told about yesterday because you're getting your hair cut,
It
and
was yesterday, yes.
Jason Waller, who's like this true redemption story, his wife Ashley like actually works in Nashville at a hair salon. So I'm like, you should go to her. She's like the coolest person on that show, like the nicest person on the
She
show.
is.
Like she is perfect and like the nicest. Like I just want to meet her, but like it wouldn't mean much to you because you haven't watched the show yet. But now that you
But
have,
I'm
you might want to go
watching.
to her. Yeah, you might want to go to her next time. She seems like a great like what is it? Not barber, like hair cutter.
Yeah,
Stylist,
cosmetologist,
stylist, yeah,
stylist.
stylist.
Yeah.
She seems really good at that, and she's like the most normal, regular person on that show. So I want to meet her. Hopefully, we get it. We should call shout out to Ashley Waller. Maybe she'll listen to
Shout
our
out to
podcast.
her. Maybe she will. Maybe she'll like us. They did move from
Yeah.
California to Tennessee because they like
Mm,
our policies more. So maybe they'll like us. I don't know. If Jason
yep.
Waller knew who I was after my like Hills obsession in my like younger years over a decade ago, if Jason Waller knew who we were, it would make my life complete. I could die a happy woman.
It's also crazy that he got way more handsome like 20 years later. And like, you know, obviously he went through a lot of stuff, but like, it's crazy when somebody looks better at like 40 than they do at like 20. Like, that's an insane thing. So good for you, Jason Waller.
The power of sobriety to actually look like a normal, handsome person rather
Well, he was
than
always
look
handsome.
like
He's just
he was
more handsome.
he's just more handsome now. That we can talk about another time because it's so unfair that men age like fine wine and women look haggard. If you've never seen The Holiday, watch The Holiday. She does a whole monologue on it. But men just age better and it's really unfair. It's a cruel joke on behalf of God. But men just age better. Let's actually talk about real issues that we're here to talk about. This week was a busy but awesome week for us at Beacon. For the last, what was it, like a year, we've been working on this comprehensive zoning atlas of Middle Tennessee. A lot of people don't know, and we've talked about it a few times on the podcast, so we won't really dig too deep into it. But Tennessee has the I'm pretty sure it's the fourth highest home prices, like on the rise in the entire country. And it shows because every time I look at Zillow, it makes my stomach hurt. Housing prices are going up, 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 not just for buyers, but also for renters. And people will say, well, it's because of this, it's because of that, it's because of inflation and the economy and COVID and bad policies from the federal level. Whatever you want to blame it on, you also have to factor in that zoning, local zoning rules, play a huge factor into this. There were things that we were talking about yesterday in a strategic planning meeting, like all of these codes regulations and zoning regulations that all of these new builds and rehab houses in and around Nashville have to deal with that make housing more expensive, not just to build a house, but to find somewhere to live. The restrictions on tiny homes, restrictions on duplexes, restrictions on granny flats and accessory dwelling units, like the above garage apartments that I actually knew so many people in my hometown that had those at their homes where family members could come and live, or they could rent them out. There are so many restrictions on these things that people don't really realize. And it was funny. We always talk about people within the Beacon office and our partners, spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends that don't work at Beacon. When they see our work, they're like, whoa. And Jason, our coworker who put so much time and effort into this, was showing it to his girlfriend the other day. And she clicked off all of these various filters because we have an interactive map. She clicked off all of these various filters to allow just for apartments. And she goes, all the data is gone. And it's true. There's so many restrictions that apartments and places for people to live who aren't maybe ready to buy yet, there's such a small area in which they can do that. And with the place that's growing as quickly as Nashville, Tennessee in general, but specifically Middle Tennessee and Nashville, to have these zoning regulations that put so many people in a position where they can't live here, it's ridiculous. And it's funny for us to see people who don't work with us, because we live in it and we breathe it, and this is what we do all day, every day, to see someone in our household observe these things and be as shocked as we are when we find it out. It's kind of a cute thing. And so if you want to look at that, and I'll get to you in a second, Mark, to give us your thoughts, but if it's on our website, beacontn.org/zoning, we have an interactive map, we have an animated explainer video. We really want to get across to people that there are so many factors that contribute to a housing shortage. This is a big one. Don't believe what anyone else tells you. This is a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, I mean, you can argue about different things, but it's almost certainly the biggest factor in housing shortage.
I
And
agree.
I mean, I think that's a fact. I mean, you can argue about different things about the cost of housing, but in terms of housing shortage, when you say you can only build certain things, things have to be this big, this wide, you can't build things on your own property because we don't want you to, like, that obviously is going to lead to less housing. And in really dense areas like Nashville, that's a real problem, right? I mean, it kind of pushes people out. It makes it so that people can't live in the city. And it's one of the reasons that you're probably getting more people who are actually moving from Nashville to suburban areas because it's actually more affordable. They can have more land, all that other stuff. It was a great it was a great map. It showed a lot of cool things that I don't think people realized before. And, Murray County was actually kind of the best one out of that. I think Williamson was probably the worst one. Nashville was somewhere in the middle, but it was kind of shocking that only 11% of land in Nashville could house apartments. Legally, that's all that could house apartments. We're like, and it seems like you see apartments the whole time. It's like they're in one area. They're like not allowed in other areas. And it's really just a great conversation piece because it's something that I think unites us with a lot of people on the left, even, people on the far left who are like, yeah, I mean, we want, more affordable housing. It's like they understand that's one way to get more affordable housing. And it's a way that doesn't involve more government, actually involves less government, which is always a positive for us. So it's a really cool map, and it's cool to look at, and it's cool to kind of see what it goes through. And there's a really good animated video that you kind of helped, make, Taylor, that is a great explanation to what actually zoning is, how it started, why more of it is usually not good, and you get disagreements over like, oh, I want all zoning gone or I want some zoning gone. But the one thing we all agree on is that less zoning is going to be better for Nashville.
Yeah, 100%. And we joke around in our office a lot, and there's a term that everyone, if you are involved in public policy, you know the term NIMBY. NIMBY, not in my backyard. They're the NIMBYs who say, we don't want this in our neighborhood. We don't want people to have a home studio down the street from us. We don't want people to be able to work out of their homes. We dealt with it with the home business thing. We deal with it with zoning and housing too. I don't want someone to have an apartment above their garage they rent out. I don't want someone to rent out a home on my street. NIMBYs, I feel like this is one issue wherein you have the true liberals, true conservatives, people who want affordable housing or want the government to get out of it, whatever it is. We usually disagree on the reason for it, but we agree on what we want, which is more affordable housing and people being able to live here, versus the NIMBYs, which is just a sprinkling of all political ideologies, but their ideology is not in my backyard. And so this is a really cool issue for us specifically, because I feel like in the think tank world, in the public policy world, we do tend to look for ways to work with people who don't always agree with us on 100% of issues. But if we can agree on one issue, then we can work together on it. And this is that one issue that we can all say, Zoning is a problem, and the government needs to get out of the business of these density requirements that require localities to have parking spaces. This is something I didn't even know about. Have parking spaces per, like if you build a church and you have this many pews, you have to have this many parking spaces at your church. That's a density requirement that seems insane to me. Same with apartments and things like that. City governments, local governments forcing density requirements, or forcing you to say your house has to have brick on the outside of it in order to be built in our county. These various zoning overlays and requirements that actually really hinder people finding a place to live. I think that the left and the right really can agree on that.
Yeah, and I actually understand some of the people who are maybe, against some of our zoning stuff. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I mean, I get it. You don't want a strip club next to your house, or you don't want a bar next to a school. I get that. But I think there's a lot of reasonable middle grounds there. And if you look at what we're talking about, you will agree with some of these things, even if you might not be all the way, one way it's like, it's insane that, a place that's a commercial area that has business cannot have apartments on it too. It doesn't affect anybody. It just allows more apartments in a commercial area, and the parking spots, the idea that like, oh, you're starting a business or you have a home and you have to have 2 parking spots, like for each, apartment you do. I mean, that raises the cost of housing. I mean, these are just very simple things. So I would urge you to take a look at it. We may not agree on everything, but I think that's okay. Look at some of the things and be like, I agree with half of these things. Maybe I don't agree with all these things. And the point of this map is not to say we think this should happen or this should happen. It's to show you how limited some of these things are. And in some cases, how limited what you could do with your own property is, which in my opinion is kind of a property rights issue. So I think it's worth looking at for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of times when we say we want to look at zoning, want to do something about zoning, people are like, no, I don't want to be like Houston. I don't want to be like Houston. That's not the proposal here. All we're saying is look at zoning, look at how it affects your neighborhood and your land. And if you don't agree with it, tell us, because we think that there are some meaningful, important changes that could be made that wouldn't have a massive effect like getting rid of zoning like they did in Houston would, but would have an effect on people's ability to live well in Tennessee, specifically in Middle Tennessee. That's all we're saying. So hear us out. Go give us a shot. Visit beacontn.org/zoning, or if you just go to our website, there's a little banner at the bottom that'll take you straight to it. You can manipulate the map. You can scroll around, zoom in on your area, check off a bunch of boxes of what is allowed and what isn't allowed. Our policy team did a great job on this. Our partners outside of Beacon did a great job on this. Yeah. We're really proud of it. Definitely go and check it out. Speaking of somewhere that I wouldn't want to live, I love New York. Mark, you love New York.
I do.
But right now, New York is like a furnace. I don't know. I don't really understand climate dynamics. Like, I don't know why Nashville and Asheville, North Carolina, where I'm going tomorrow, have air pollution warnings over wildfires that are happening in Canada, but I know that it's happening. And if you saw the pictures, climate's not my thing. I don't know a lot about it. I don't know how it works. What I do know is that my roommate just left for New York and she took N95 masks with her because apparently the air up there is very unhealthy to breathe at the current moment. And I've never quite seen anything like it. And we don't even know if a mask will help that. We don't even know if a mask is going to help that. But she's like, I don't want to breathe this crap in. This looks terrible.
And it's crazy to look at because it looks so cool in the sky. The sky's like orange, but I mean, people are not going outside. I mean, it's one of the things you don't know what's going on. Obviously, there's wildfires in Canada, and that's why there's smoke over there. I do think this is something where people are acting like this is the first time this happens. Like, this is basically what it looks like in California, like once a year. So it's not something that is new. It might be new for New York, though, because it's all coming from Canada, and obviously they don't have wildfires in New York. I again, like you, I don't quite understand it. I don't like this general rule of thumb, though, when there's anything going on, disaster or whatever, where you, again, try to make it political without having any idea. There's been wildfires in like the 1800s and the 90s. It's not, we can't just say, oh, climate change is the reason. There's more. And which Justin Trudeau came out and said, like, you have no evidence beyond this. You just made it up. You just wanted to.
Thought it sounded good.
Yeah, I mean, and you wanted to move your agenda forward. And I'm not saying he's even wrong, but he has no idea. He's just saying this because he's like, oh, here's a great opportunity. The never let a crisis go to waste. Let me put my, agenda on there. So I don't like that. But, outside of the air in New York, which is, problematic, I'm not as worried about that as I am about, Canada generally and the people in Canada, and hopefully that these wildfires calm down, because this is, I mean, what they're dealing with in New York and a lot of the Northeast is nothing compared to what they're dealing with in Canada, right? So I think it's a good time for us to step back instead of everyone posting this is what's happening in New York. It's like, well, what's actually happening in Canada where people are? Yeah, there's a gigantic fire and like the country seems to be burning down. So let's focus on that maybe.
Yes, yeah. I mean, New York is scary, and I wouldn't want to go there right now. And I think that Brenna was a little nervous going up there today. She actually got a spray tan last night, and she was like, "The thing is, I could just go outside in New York and just as quickly be covered in smoke and look like I have a spray tan." Anyway, but it definitely is scary up there. I keep looking at on my phone New York's weather, and I will say that the air quality index yesterday was like 345 and now it's 184, so it is getting better. It's not great. Nashville's yesterday was like 130 or 140 something, and now it's back down to a little bit more. I mean, it's still 109. It's still unhealthy, but not terrible. But you do feel sorry for the people in New York, but then you think of people in Canada itself that have COPD or asthma or something where they can't breathe that stuff in. It's a scary time, and I hope the Canadian government steps up and actually does something about it, or nonprofits and groups up there that can actually do something rather than trying to make it a political issue, because that is annoying.
Maybe again, I'm not an expert in this, but I don't feel like it's that big of a deal. I mean, the air, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it's a big deal if you like live in that for years, like they probably did in Japan after, whatever, I guess it's Hiroshima, but like, it's probably not a big deal. I know it's not great for you, but like, let's not act like people are dying in New York because of this air. It's fine. Maybe don't. Yeah. Maybe don't go outside. Yeah. Don't go outside for like 5 weeks straight. Maybe I'm sure it's all gonna, but like, it's not a big deal. Like, let's not act like the world is falling just because like there's a little bit of smoke in the air. Like, chill out.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Definitely not for people who have compromised respiratory systems, but I think it will be okay. I just feel really sorry for the people in Canada who are actually having to deal with this, and seeing just New York folks I saw a really funny meme yesterday saying fresh smoked salmon, and someone took a piece of salmon outside and they were just standing there in front of the orange sky and smoking their salmon. I mean, it's funny when people call it like that, but let's call it what it is. Canada needs some help, and the focus has strictly been on New York. Not cool. And we hope that Canada gets it together. While everybody's focus has been on the wildfires, I didn't even know about that because I was following all of the PGA LIV drama this week. And, Mark and I do disagree. Mark likes LIV. I think they're traitors. We disagree on that, but now I guess we all got to get on board or get run over because old Jay, head of the PGA, negotiated a little deal and didn't tell anybody, and now we have a super league. What would you call it? Like what? I don't.
It's back to what it was essentially. It's all the same people. They're just combining three different like leagues, but it's essentially the same players as were there like 2 years ago.
Right. And I watched Rory McIlroy's press conference about it yesterday. Rory, he's just like a good old boy. He just kind of smiles a lot and is a really happy dude. Not yesterday, honey. He looked mad. He looked like someone had told him what he was and was not allowed to say, and he was trying to be diplomatic, but he did not look happy. This is, and Mark's loving it because it's making me squirm, because I'm like, now I have to like accept Brooks Koepka back into my life, and Bryson DeChambeau and Patrick Reed and Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson and all the people that I just don't like.
That have like basically the top 10 of the last major is what you're saying. Like some of the best golfers in the world. Yeah.
Okay. I don't like them. If you watch Full Swing on Netflix, you wouldn't like them either. But I'm telling you, Mark, their personalities are trash. And I mean,
Rory McIlroy is the worst person in the PGA. If you like him, your opinion means nothing to me. He's horrible. The way that he tried to bully them, now he's acting like he's the worst person there is. He loves talking about his like he's awful. Rory McIlroy is the worst personality in the PGA, and there's no question about it. So if you like him, I don't trust your opinion. Yeah, I know you do. You're wrong.
I think that Brooks Koepka has the worst personality in the PGA. I think he's a little crybaby. I think he's a jerk. I don't like him.
I mean, I don't like him either, but like Rory McIlroy is worse than any of these people. I mean, he is horrible, and his whole thing has been just like he's acted like this way, and then he was so focused on these other people that he forgot how to play golf. And like he was horrible. So it's like, why don't you just worry about yourself and your whole thing? Because he is a not horrible. I don't like him one bit, and he's not a great guy. And the way that he just bullied these people for doing what they thought was in their best interest is ridiculous.
I love him because I am a PGA loyalist. I will support
just live and let live.
His league forever.
Don't we believe in live and let live personally? But apparently that's not an LIV is what I mean when I say live. But like, don't you? I mean, isn't that what we believe personally? Let people do what they want. Let's not let them do it. They want to go play in that league. Why do you have to trash them? Why do you have to say all these things about them? Let them play their game. Let them have fun. Let them make money. You can choose whether not to do that. You could say it's a bad idea, but like, why are you personally insulting these people just because you don't agree with their financial decisions? I don't agree with a lot of things you do, right? I'm not going to trash you because you
trash me all the time.
And not for if you not serious. If you left for another job because you thought this was the best thing for you, like, okay, good for her. Obviously I wouldn't like it. I would rather you stay here, but it's insane. It's insane that he cares so much about other people when like he just needs to worry about his own golf swing, probably.
Okay, well, I love him, and I love the PGA. I mean, I know the PGA doesn't do anything right. However, there was just this like tackiness about the way that people were going to live, and it's tacky. I think that they negotiated this deal and didn't tell the PGA golfers. All these PGA golfers were getting on Twitter the next morning and saying like, "Great to find this out from Twitter." Like,
yeah, it's not their job. I mean, their job is to golf. They are not the PGA president. They have no say in what the PGA does. They are people who are employed essentially by the PGA. If Justin makes a decision, and doesn't tell us before it happens, that's okay. It's not their job. They are golfers. And the complaints from these golfers are basically these guys who suck, who aren't good at golf. And now the LIV players are going to come back in. They're like, well, I guess I can't make these tournaments anymore because like I was basically given this step stool because they left. So I don't care about them. I don't want to hear about them. Jay Monahan can do whatever he wants. They elected him to do that. That is his job. His job is not to ask a million different people. It's the same as basketball. I don't care what the players say about the decision the general manager made. It's not their job. They don't have a say in it. Doesn't matter.
I'm not saying Jay should have consulted him.
He should not have.
Maybe they should have gotten like a little bit of a heads up before they woke up and saw it on Twitter.
That's he has no reason to do that.
Agree to disagree. I think he should have let them know. It does seem kind of like, I don't know what the dynamics are going to look like now that the LIV players are back in the league, what the pay scale is going to look like. I think that's interesting. It also makes me curious that the LIV ratings were so low for all their tournaments and they were doling out all this money and now they're back all of a sudden. Like, what was going on between that? I hope Netflix makes a Full Swing part 2 with kind of the dynamics of the deal. I think that would be interesting because I liked Full Swing, but I want to know what went into the deal. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, the issue with LIV was not, I mean, they wouldn't get a major network to pick them up. That was the big reason why and that was a big problem. They also cost the PGA a lot of money, but I think the biggest issue for the PGA was that how good these LIV golfers were doing in majors, where it's like, they can't even really say it's their minor league. It's like the LIV is like as good as us. Like these players are as good as us. So it's like you have, and that's not like that in any other league in the world, right? You have the NBA, the NFL. Like these are the best players in the world, and it's no question. Everybody wants to go there. When you're taking top 10, top 20 players in the world going to this other thing, it's like PGA lost their superiority, and it's like these guys are just as good in this tour. So I think it probably was. I know that you used the Michael Scott Paper Company example, but it probably was. It probably was a little bit like that where the LIV was not making money because of these TV contracts. The PGA was losing a lot of money because they didn't have the best players in the world. And again, it was kind of embarrassing for them how well LIV golfers were doing at these major tournaments that they didn't even want them in. So I think it was a combination of both those things. And it really was the best thing for both of them, probably.
Yeah, it's giving Michael Scott Paper Company for real. And if you don't know what that means, just go watch. There's one episode of The Office that you need to watch called Michael Scott Paper Company. And that is a perfect, Blake actually told me that. He was like, people on Twitter are calling it Michael Scott Paper Company. That is what happened here. LIV promised all this money, promised all these great deals. Were they running out of money? We may never know. Was the PGA, Dunder Mifflin, threatened? Yes. They bought them back up probably for more than they were worth to begin with. And now we have a big league of all of our golfers back in it playing for all the majors. Very short-lived. LIV was short-lived. Will it happen again? Who's to say? Are they going to come up with some agreement that no other golf league can ever exist again? I don't know. I don't think that would be very ethical. Will it happen again in our lifetimes? Probably. And will we repeat this cycle now that it started? I do think so.
Well, two things.
Interesting to watch, and I want to watch a documentary about it.
It's season 5, episode 23. If you want to watch an episode of The Office, I mean, I think that the big problem was the way that the PGA acted in the first place, and I think that hopefully they learned their lesson when you're not, paying people what they think they're worth, and you're not running a league that caters to the people that you want to pay that bring in the ratings. That's what happens. So I'm assuming that it's not going to happen again if the PGA does that, because basically these people had no other choice. That's why they had to stay with the PGA. As soon as they had a choice, like, I'm leaving the first thing I can. I'm getting more money. I get a better schedule. I can do all these things that, like, I get a better work-life balance, which is a real reason for some of these things. So I really, to this day, it's not even like I like live. I don't care. I just think that it's crazy that people are insulting the people who left for that. They want to spend more time with their family, make more money, and still play golf. Oh yeah, you're right. That sounds like a horrible deal. Like, it's crazy that we're doing that. And the way that Rory acted, I think that, I never cared for him much before, but he is now, I think, the worst person in the PGA, and he's somebody who I'm going to actively cheer against now.
That's so horrible.
Yeah, sure.
I have a much different list of worst, and it's entirely based on personality. But agree to disagree. Agree to disagree.
Yes.
So this weekend, before we go, we have to give a hat tip to all the people who are coming into town for CMA Fest. Neither of us will be one of them. I am hightailing it to Asheville, North Carolina, first thing tomorrow morning. Mark will probably be safely in Franklin with his wife and his dog watching trash television. You would have to pay me money to go to 3 whole days of country music. And you would have to pay me a lot of money, like a live golfer rate, to actually do that, because A, the heat is not for me. B, the country music is not for me. C, I don't like places that are too people-y. I get really nervous. But it is great for Tennessee. Okay, and this is what Mark and I talk about all the time. There are things that can happen that we think are terrible. Mark doesn't like scooters. You don't like scooters, right?
I do not like scooters now. Yeah. I do not.
Mark hates the scooters on the street. However, they're good for us and people should be able to use them. I don't like party buses. However, my sister went on one last weekend and had a great time and contributed to the Tennessee economy. Good for her. I think that CMA Fest sounds like the most negative cross section of all of the things that I hate. However, good for them for putting it on and going to it. It's great for the economy if people want to enjoy it. I actually went and got my hair cut this morning, and my girl was talking about, she was like, "Are you going to CMA Fest?" I said, absolutely not. I'm actually driving 5 hours away from Nashville first thing tomorrow morning before it starts. And she said that she went once. I've never been before. She said that she went once, and she was like, it was just sweat. She was like, the only thing I remember about the entire weekend is sweat. And, that ain't for me. We talked about it a billion times. Mark and I are just sweaty on any normal day. It could be 70 degrees outside and I'm going to be sweating. I'm not interested in that, but kudos to the people who are going out there. Thanks for boosting our economy. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with the points 1 and 3. I've been to CMA Fest about 3 or 4 times. I don't go to the big show, and I can't stay out too long. Like you said, the heat gets to me. But I remember some of the coolest things I've done, especially when we worked downtown. I walked down at lunch and I saw, Darius Rucker play in front of 50 people because I got like these special tickets that were free, and it's like that was such a cool experience. I remember, and like some of the cool things that are outside of CMA Fest, because all these country music singers are in town now. I remember I saw the night that Dierks Bentley released his new CD. It was midnight. He started when the CD released at the Ryman, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It was indoors, so that helped.
That is cool. Yeah.
And I got home at like 3 a.m., so I wasn't super happy at that point. But it was one of these, and he just played the entire album all the way through. And the people on the album were there, and it was really, really. Brandy Carlisle, who I think Suzanne likes, was there and sang because she's on a song.
Her too.
Yeah, well, she has a song with him, and she sang the song with him at like 1 a.m. on a Tuesday night. All the fan clubs parties. I went to Phil Vassar's fan club party like 7 or 8 years. They usually had like Rocket Town or 3rd and Lindsley. And it's just, the week is really cool. And, now that I'm farther away and I'm getting a little bit older, it's like, it doesn't appeal to me as much as it did before, but it's really a cool event. There's a lot of cool things. I think I'd go if it was like November. I can't deal with this heat and the people is too much. And it's like, I always kind of liked, I'd say famous country singers, but not like the most famous. So like most of the venues I went to were not super crowded. I loved Outshine, which was this weird band. Like they were great. No, very good. But like 75 people, like not a lot of people were there. So I tried to go to the ones that were not as crowded, and great experience. I really like it. I will not stay for the whole time. There's a lot of jean shorts. I will say that. Too many jean shorts for my liking. But outside of that, it's a very fun time. So, I mean, it's great that we do that. Of course, I don't want any kind of a, I don't necessarily want any tax dollars to go to it, but I think it's a great thing that we do for the city, and it brings in a lot of tourism.
Yes, and we will all be staying clear of downtown. We had our strategic planning meetings downtown this week, and the diversions of traffic were throwing me off. Trying to get from Crema to downtown, it was a nightmare. And if you know me, if I'm going anywhere remotely close to Crema, I'm going to go. But trying to get from there to where I needed to be, absolute nightmare. Thankful that we both live kind of on the outside of it and will not be entering into that this week. So many road closures. So if you're going to CMA Fest, stay safe, drink water, don't don't get hit by a car, and don't get hit by a drunk person. I just feel like those two things are very likely to happen at a thing like CMA Fest.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, most of the people are staying in hotels or walking. And there is a fun fact for you. I don't think I told you this. There's a place called the Flower Kitchen. It's new in Franklin. It's right on the same.
Oh,
It's basically right next to Urban Market, and
oh,
it's a little coffee and flower shop. But they serve crema coffee there, so that like the beans are crema beans. Yeah, truthfully, not as good as crema, and they still need some help on mixing their drinks, but the coffee is pretty good. Yeah, like their lattes and stuff. Like I think they need a little bit of help on like the stuff they're putting in it. But
yeah.
it's a really cool place. Apparently, they have great food. I've not had it yet, and their black coffee is really good. I've had a couple of lattes. Okay, not bad, but I feel like it's just new, so you always got to give place a couple of weeks to get there. So next time you're
Sure.
at, you can compare. Go to Urban Market, go to Flower Kitchen, get two coffees, and see which one you like better.
I mean, listen, flowers and coffee together, it's like my favorite things in the entire world, especially crema beans. If I'm buying a bag of coffee, I'm getting crema's beans. They're so good. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that next time I come and pick up or drop off Sloane Girl. I'm gonna go to
Yep.
Flower Kitchen. I'm gonna get me some flowers and some coffee.
There you go.
Anything else to add before we go, Mark?
Nope, just everything's great. I mean, things are
Everything's
great.
great.
Yeah, we're very happy, and that's great. And we're super excited. We're going to talk, in the next coming weeks. But we have a poll coming out pretty soon, our first ever poll. So we're super excited about that. But that's just kind of a teaser for coming up.
Yeah, you people are going to like that. But in the meantime, go to our website, beacontn.org/zoning. Explore the atlas. Let us know what you think of it. This has been Decaf, a production of the Beacon Center of Tennessee. If you haven't already, you should subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And you'll get our new content on your phone every single week. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.